me today. If you're new to this channel, this will be totally ad-free, and I want to clear the air right now with some chimes. We're going to be thanking all the energies and our oneness for this opportunity to go over the oneness lessons in spiritual consciousness. So I'm starting a new playlist. It's going to be a yoga playlist, and yoga is going to be explained to you in these videos. So without further ado, let's read Yoga Lessons for Developing Spiritual Consciousness by Swami A.P. Mukherjee, Associate Editor of Kalapak Magazine of India, published by the Yogi Publication Society, Masonic Temple, Chicago, Illinois. Representatives. Okay. Now, this is, if you want to see the copyright, it's from 1911, and it is in the public domain. You may obtain a copy or view a copy at archive.org. Let me get this a little lower, see? And just, so this book is dedicated to the love of D.P. Maharaji, the holy blessing I invoke for the spiritual well-being of my readers. Intelligence, may this great soul inspire. Okay. Contents. Yoga lessons for developing spiritual consciousness. First chapter is the yoga conception of life. Second chapter will be the ideal and the practical. The third will be read and reflect. The fourth will be man, animal, and divine. The fifth will be double consciousness. The sixth, spiritual unfoldment. The seventh, cause and effect. The eighth, man, the master. The ninth, self-development. The 10th, developing the spiritual consciousness. The 11th, who can be a yogi. The 12th, constructive idealism. The 13th, higher reason and judgment. The 14th, conquest of fear. The 15th, the role of prayer. The 16th, thought, creative and exhaustive. And the 17th, meditation exercises. The 18th, self-dehypnotization. And the 19th, self-dehypnotization. And 20, character building. Okay, so let's get over here. Now, if you're new to yoga, yoga was started first as a discipline of mind, and then it incorporated. It was breathing exercises, and we'll go on. This will explain it somewhat. Verily, in whom unwisdom is destroyed by the wisdom of the self in them, wisdom shining as the sun reveals the supreme. Yoga is a subject which has enthralled the attention of the world from time out of mind. No one has hitherto done justice to such a grand system, though there have been now and then innumerable attempts. The present author, my esteemed friend Swami Maharaji, a yogi who comes out of a successive generation of yogis, is a fit and proper instrument to handle the subject. He, in these lessons, prepares the layman for understanding of yoga, and through a series of wise and masterful sayings, impresses on the mind of the reader the necessity for rising above materialism, nay, solves the very problem, what am I? Every line is pregnant with mature thoughts, and rivets one's attention and makes him think. This is not a work for which an introduction briefly setting forth the contents could be written. I can but ask you to read, digest, and improve. Dr. T.R. Sanjaiva, Ph.D., President, the Latent Light Culture, Tinvali, India. Okay. Now that was in 1911. Okay, so we went over that. And there may be some graphics in here. We shall see. I'm going to just scooch this back a little so it fills up a bit better. And actually, how about if we pull this up? There we go. Chapter 1, The Yogi Conception of Life. If we study the action of mind upon mind, of mind over matter, of mind over the human body, we may realize how each man is a power in himself. To use Mr. Randall's phrases in his beautiful book on psychology, life is demonstrative. It speaks with a million tongues. Life stands for light and love. Contemplation of death, which is really a change, will not lead to happiness. All stagnation is death. Humanity is a moving mass, and this is true of it as regards single units as well as of the collective whole. Stop, we cannot. We must go forwards, which is Godwards. Or there is the backward line of progress, which is ignorance. Spasms of activity catch hold of us and push us onward, and similarly, fear, weakness, and worry, the triple weapons of our old friend the devil, catch us in their deadly grip, and crib cabin and confine us. We all are preparing to live day in and day out. Is it not so? The body ages. The soul is ever on the alert. We all are trying to grasp life in its proper perspective, to get a clear view of the goal ahead. Some say, I'm for enjoying life. Some say, it's a bad mixture of heaven and hell. For the most part, hell. Others stand on neutral ground and say, let us make the best of a bad bargain. Since we are here, it's no use grumbling. This world is for our education. Right. We must move forward. It may be progress forward or progress backwards. Life is a series of awakenings. Ideas dawn upon the mind from time to time, are caught up by brain and body, and find physical expression as acts. Our outward life with its environment is fitted to our inward development. Wealth, position, fame, power, all these are simple expressions of individual character. This is not a platitude. Look and see for yourself. It is quite necessary that we should pass through certain experiences, that we rise from ideal to ideal. We create our own fate. Our sufferings, our joys, are so many projections for ourselves. We alone are responsible for them. Like the silkworm, we build a cocoon around the soul, and then feeling cramped, we set to loosening of the bonds. Enjoyment is not, ought not to be the goal of life. Sense enjoyments end in satiety and exhaustion, power and self, riches and all that riches mean may tie us down to a narrow sphere, but in the long run we do come to know that happiness is not in them. This is a tremendous truth, yet God mercifully screens it from us till we are prepared to receive it. What remains then? Man wants happiness. He rushes from one thing to another to grasp it, only to find everything slipping through his fingers. Let none deny it. The aim of philosophy is to put an end to pain. All pain is caused by ignorance. Apply the saving remedy of knowledge, and pain vanishes at once. This is a great fact, and all young men ought to stamp it well upon their minds. While we are upon this phase of our subject, it may be worthwhile to go farther into these important facts of life, pleasure, and pain. Our thoughts and actions are forces we send out of ourselves. All life is expression. The soul of man is trying to see itself in everything. How did the different organs of the body come into existence? How did man get his eyes, his ears, his nose, and so forth? How does the growth of things proceed on the subconscious plane of existence? The soul willed to see and saw, willed to hear and it heard, willed to smell and it smelt. That is the right explanation. Take a subject, throw him into a hypnotic trance. Lead him into the deepest state possible. Give him vigorous suggestions that a steady increase is taking place as to his physique. Repeat the suggestion twice every day for a few months, and you will have put pounds of flesh on his form. If you know anything of these things at all, you will be hardly astonished. A striking case once occurred. Some frivolous students of Aberdeen held a hypnotic seance. A friend of theirs was hypnotized and made to go through certain illusions. Then a wet towel was put upon his neck, and it was suggested to him that a sharp knife had been drawn right across his neck to cut his throat, and that he was dead. It was such fun. The students danced for joy, but what was their surprise when they found that the man was stone dead? It taught the eternal truth. What man thinks that he is, that he shall be. Now man is trying to express himself on the different planes of his being by appropriating to himself different vehicles of expression. When he meets with opposition, an obstacle, he chafes like a caged lion. Load the limbs of man with fetters of iron and see the result. It is really this. When we can push forward without opposition, it causes pleasure, a sense of happiness. When we are held back, it causes pain. Place good food before a healthy man. See how he likes it. It is because he knows that he is making an addition to himself. It brings on a sense of moreness, and pleasure follows. Of course, there are higher grades of this sense of moreness. Some ancient doctors define passion as an ascension of strength due to the surcharge of arterial blood in the veins. All pleasure is from strength, all pain from weakness. There can be no question as to this fact. My goodness, get to the yoga stuff already. All right, let's go. There is a fire burning. Heap coals. The more coals, the brighter, the steadier the flame. And all obstacles are really coal feeding the flame of the spirit. They spur a man on. The vibrations of pain are often blessings in disguise. They drive the lesson home. The effect is not different from the cause, sorry, both are obverse and reverse of the same coin. Painful results grow out of deeds that clash with the interests of the divinity within, which is for freedom. Lord, I want nothing, neither health nor beauty nor power. Give me freedom, and I am content. This is Jivan Mukti. Jivan Mukti. This is the highest ideal of life. Thinking of the little pleasures of the senses has brought us to this, to dance, to laugh, to weep, before the tears are gone, to begin over again. Look at my condition, slave of the flesh, slave of the mind, wanting to have this, that, and what not. Darkness behind darkness ahead. Such is the wail of ignorance. Get rid of it. Oh, my friend, it is your greatest, direst enemy. Let the light of knowledge dissipate this darkness of ignorance. The Lord above is our refuge. He alone is strength. In him we live and have our being. Where seek you first your ideals? Here it is. Freedom. You are rushing to it, and so am I. Welcome everything that helps you, yea, compels you to strike one more blow in the noble cause of emancipation. Can a marble figure brook the blow of an iron mass can bear? No slave is slave caressed and whipped, fetters though of gold are not less strong to bind. Thus let us work it out. Let us cut short this show of 5 minutes with death and decay as its sequel. We shall go beyond this to the one source, God, and there is peace. So we're going to go on to chapter 2 since this one is not that long. And again, this is on yoga and it's translated to English. I'm not sure the exact method that this doctor is using. He says he's got a PhD. Okay, chapter 2. The ideal and the practical. Here are 2 words, imagination and fancy. What is the distinction between the 2? Well, the one is closely related to the positive and the conscious side of our character. The other claim kinship with the negative side and the receptive side. Only. Take a youth starting in life. He has not been born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He's poor and has absolutely none to look to for help or any sort whatsoever. Now suppose he has spirit, and instead of sitting down and bewailing his lot, he forms a definite plan of conduct, throws his mind forward into the future, and decides to reach a certain state of development. He pictures to himself that state in its perfection, plans out the methods whereby he is to achieve it, takes in the difficulties to be met with and conquered, and by an effort, common sense, reasoning sees the actual amount of good accruing to humanity and to all of God's creatures in general. He has had to think hard in order to construct the whole picture. He's had to breathe life upon it by repeating the images in connection with the whole picture. He has had to acquire knowledge. seek the advice of men more experienced than himself. And all the while, he has had to keep up a brave and hopeful attitude of mind. And mark you, he scorns to think of failure. It is for him to try his level best. It is for nature, which is hard though, a just paymistress, to bring him his reward in its due season. The above is a fair example of the exercise of imagination. Fancy plays us tricks. It is not the man who pulls the strings this time. He simply yields himself to the influence of all sorts of impossible daydreams. His mind is a sieve for thoughts to pass in and out. It is an aimless idol, wandering, and brings ready victims for the pitch and toss game of men whose principle is to do others before the latter can have a turn at them. A man is what his ideals are. If one man with an ideal makes 50 mistakes in a day, the man without an ideal is sure to commit many more. This is a simple truth, yet it will bear repetition here. All muscular actions, whether mental or physical, are simply fragments from the ideal. The life of the ideal is in the practical. It is the ideal that has penetrated the whole of our life, whether we philosophize or perform the hard everyday duties of life. It is the ideal that has made us what we are and will make us what we are to be. The principle is seldom expressed in the practical, yet the ideal is never lost sight of. Pavari Baba by Vivekananda. Apologies, guys. So basically, this is translated into English, and I am I'm unable to speak this other language. I even have trouble pronouncing the names. Apologies. Okay, so let's get to the next page here. The very fact of the ideal being present in your mind foreshadows its fulfillment. Our thoughts set up a magnetic center within us. Like attracts like. Good thoughts draw to themselves corresponding thoughts. This fact is very emphatic. Each tree brings forth fruits of its kind. If we think well, we cannot act ill. The greatness of a man must find its measure in the greatness of his thoughts, and not in the amount of money in his pocket or the bluster on his tongue. Our ideal is the hinge upon which our future turns. We create our own fate. The first essential is to pitch our aims high. Let us look upward and upward alone. Let us pray to God for strength by all means, but let us be prepared to deserve His grace by walking a straight path. If we weave our thoughts around a grand purpose in life, the ideal so formed may take material form any day. Its impulsion may stir up concretions of gross physical matter into activity and may clap spurs to the feet of even a lazy hack. So much for the ideal, if the ideal is to be cherished. It must also be nourished. If you simply sit down and desire to get a thing, you will never get it. And it's good for you that you should not. For the practical side of things must never be neglected. Practice makes perfect. Having set currents of holy desire in motion, we must set to deepen them in intensity and volume. Great actions are only transformed, great concentrations. Desire expands the will, action clenches it into strength. Each act in the right direction goes to establish us in our ideal. Action gives us training. Education is for self-discipline. Force of character is what we want. Money, fame, praise, and blame may well take care of themselves. What matters is what the world thinks of me, so long as I can think well of myself. Have I a clear conscience? Is my body under my control? Is my mind pure? Do I love man? Do I dare to look others straight in the eye? Do I fear anything? The answer to such questions will go to make up the sum of our happiness or misery. A strong will, a steady pulse, a pure mind, these are what we want. But naught comes from naught. Ex nihilo nihil fit. Nothing will drop from the skies. So here, my brother, do you want a thing? Is it a good thing? Then take it. Let us desire what we desire. That is the energetic way of setting about things. Action, right action, unselfish action, these alone can give us strength. To think is to act is to live is to love. Love, love, that is the sole resource. Therefore, O thou soul, pray to thy primal source, God, for the power to make others happy. Disease may come, limb after limb may be lopped off. Sorrow may strike thee to the core, yet cease not to desire nobly, and to bear thyself in action yet more nobly. The privacy of your own room, of your own mind, is the place where you must play the man. We have long lived under the influence of fear, the firstborn of ignorance. Let knowledge come with its power, courage. This is the supreme lesson we have to learn. Fear leads us from death to death. Courage opens the gate into life, serenity, and joy. Please keep in mind that this book is written in 1911 and that women did not even have the vote in 1920, and that the word man can easily just be replaced with the word human. It is nothing more than a communication of an idea at a point in time where it's describing a translation of the concepts of the yogi and yoga. Let's scroll through here, and next time we'll finish up and we'll start on chapter 3. But in the meantime, the whole concept that we're hearing about here is developing the spiritual concept that a yogi develops. So if you're here to do yoga poses and want to do physical exercise, this is uh, you know, more of the concept of the philosophy and the idea behind it. And again, as I said in the beginning, it started with breath work and then it moved into physical movements. Okay, well, thank you for listening. We will finish up a couple of chapters at a time, depending on how long they are. And then we will get through this. Thank you for listening. Take care. Bye.